think if somebody had came to me and said, listen, I'm gonna give you $1 million to tell your parents you're pregnant, I would have declined. My mom found out when I was 7 months pregnant. He goes away to football camp, comes back, things were never the same. Where I started putting pieces of the puzzle together that made sense. I
Yeah.
was just, oh,
Yeah.
huh.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was good. You walk out that door, don't even come back. I cannot believe you just punched me with that fist. I remember him strangling me. Hours later, I'm laying on the bed. I come to, you need to come to the house because I killed Carol. You are as sick as your secrets. Know that you are loved, you are valued, and you are valuable. If you hang in there, if you keep going, if you don't give up on you, you're going to make it.
Welcome to Sex Ed for Saints, where we get candid about love, sex, wellness, and relationships. Just so you know, I am Tammy, a wife, a mother, the best-selling author, your favorite intimacy and relationship coach, the host of this fantabulous podcast where we're going to promote sex and still keep it God. And I got a question for you. Have you ever wished that someone had taught you more about sex from a faith-filled perspective? Or have you ever had questions that no one could answer? Or felt like if you knew then what you know now, you might have made some decisions a little different? Well, let me tell you, you are not alone. This podcast is dedicated to just that. We're going to fill in the gaps. We're going to break some silence and help you to grow in godly intimacy with our lessons without shame. And so, classes in session, y'all. Welcome to Lessons with T right here on the Sex Ed for Saints podcast.
And listen, y'all, I am excited for today. Listen, this is going to be take two, but it's going to be take one. We have Pastor Carolyn on the stream. Hello, Pastor Carolyn. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I am good. I am good. I'm excited to have you here because a lot of people don't understand, my audience, they don't understand how powerful you are. You have a powerful testimony, and I am excited to get into it. Today's episode is going to be called Heal to Love Again, and y'all are going to understand why. But before we get into it, I do have some icebreaker questions that I always like to ask. It kind of gives us the flow of the conversation so that we can get rolling. And so, you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Right, okay. Myth versus truth. Trauma defines your destiny.
Okay, say that again. Is it true? I'm sorry, say that again.
Trauma defines your destiny.
Oh, that's false. That's not true.
That's very false.
That is not true.
It's obviously false, but I'm always amazed at how many people attach themselves to their trauma, and it impacts, their decisions so much that it actually does. And it's not on purpose. It's just because they don't really understand how to detach from the trauma that they had or what they've experienced,
Yeah, I was going to say it can if you allow it to.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, so let's get into another one. If your own family couldn't love you, you'll never be fully loved.
False.
Yes. Yes.
That is not true. Not true.
Yeah. Listen, we got a lot of family who's not really family.
It's true. And a lot of times God will send you family that's not blood. And you'd be surprised. A perfect example is I was a daddy's girl. And so when my biological dad passed away, my father-in-law literally stepped in right where he left off, and he was just as much of a dad to me as my biological dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was married to his abusive son. And this man loved on me and their entire family. So no, God will send you people that can love on you and genuinely care for you. And it's not always blood.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. I love that. I love that. I'm excited to get into that story. But let me get another one in. Survival is just the beginning. Thriving is the promise.
I said yes, because
Yeah.
we should want to thrive, not just survive. That's just the beginning stages. Where we just keep going, we can thrive. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And you are the prime example of that. And with that, I am excited again to have you on. Listen, y'all, I met Pastor Carolyn in our group. It's called Win Women and Empower. And in that group of dynamic women, let me tell you, these women have some stories. They are like women, they're golden, okay? Like the things that they have experienced, it just always has me in awe to see what people go through, but not be able to see what they have been through. You know what I'm saying? And so we participated
Yeah.
in an anthology together called Letter to the Little Girl. And I'm excited because I read that story. I read that story, and Pastor Carolyn was so powerful. That story was so powerful. We're gonna get into all of that. But before we go on, I want to give you an opportunity to tell everybody a little bit about who you are.
Yes, absolutely. And again, thank you so much for having me. And I am pastor and purpose pusher of Tears to Breakthrough Ministries and TDB Global. And I, like many women, wear many, many hats. I'm a mom, I'm a glam mom, I'm a wife, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm in the marketplace, I'm in ministry. So I do so many things. But my ministry, God has called me to leave the 99 to go after the one. So my ministry is not a traditional ministry, but I serve women who are starting over after trauma, and I help women totally start over fresh. And I let them know you can have the life that you desire. You can have the dream life. There is life on the other side of trauma. There is life, but you have to choose life.
I absolutely love that. And nobody could really understand that unless you have been and experienced it, because now you're positioned to be able to help a lot of these people, right? And for that, I want to kind of like take it back a little bit. I want you to tell us a little bit about your childhood, what that was like growing up.
Okay, so my childhood, there were six of us siblings. And I grew up in a two-parent household. Both parents loved us. Like we all felt, my siblings and I, we always felt loved and cared for and nurtured. And it's funny because I thought we were rich, but I didn't realize until later when I got older, like, oh, we were struggling. But my parents made it seem like, we had everything that we needed and we just never wanted for anything. And but I was a daddy's girl. I was a daddy's girl and a middle child. And I think as middle children, sometimes we feel that we have to fend for ourselves. So a lot of times, even though I had this house full of people, I kind of felt like everybody thought I was the strong one. I was the one that knew better. I was the one that going to be able to the problem solver. I could just do things because I don't know. They just thought I had this superpower or something. So that kind of taught me that I have to be, I can't always rely on people. Like you have to figure it out, girl. Because I had to always figure things out. But my dad, I was a daddy's girl because he always would notice that I was kind of in the background. And so he would always try to pull me in. And I never forget, my dad said something powerful to me one day. I was having a temper tantrum because my siblings would just ask my dad for things. And I was really shy. And like whatever they wanted, they would just ask, but I wouldn't ask because I guess I didn't want to impose. I didn't want to be a problem. I didn't want to be an issue. So I'll never forget, I was upset one day because my dad, got paid on Friday. So everybody got money. And I never forget my sibling, my sister and my older brother, asked him for, I forget what they asked him for, but I remember he just freely gave it to them. And I was sitting there with my arms crossed, pouting, like, but he didn't give it to me. And my dad noticed I was pouting. He was just like, daughter, what is wrong? And I said, because you're always giving them,
Mm-hmm.
not like he gave me too, but I'm just saying, and you know how children, we see things differently.
Of course.
So, yeah, and he was just like, you can have anything you want. The difference between you and them, he said, is they ask. They open up their mouth and ask for what they want. I never forgot my father said that to me. He says, the day that you learn how to open up your mouth and ask for what you want, it's going to change your entire life. And I never forgot that. So I had to learn how to open my mouth and ask for what I wanted.
He was training you very early to speak. He was training you early to speak.
I never thought that. Yeah, I thought if I sat there and pouted, that he's like, no, that gets that you will go nowhere.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
will never see you, never notice you. You will be overlooked. Like he really broke it down. I remember, and I was like, that's so harsh. I'm a child. He was like, no,
Yeah.
but I always remember that conversation.
Yeah, because you got value from it. And now you probably speak up today, don't you? A little bit.
Always, I will say
Yeah.
what I mean what I say. Take
See?
really trust me.
See? So daddy, you talked about daddy a lot and that's your daddy's little girl. What was the dynamics between your mom and your dad?
So it's so funny because when I look back, there was so much dysfunction in the house, but we didn't know it was dysfunction. We just thought this is my family. We all love each other. But my mom was the aggressor in the household. She was the boss basically. My dad was very passive, he just chill. He was just so chill. But my mom ran things. And basically, I know my dad's favorite line was, don't get your mama started. Don't get your mama started. What are
Yeah.
you doing? You're gonna get your mama started.
Yeah.
Right. So she basically ran the house. And as I got older, I was thinking, that's not good. That's not good. I remember thinking that is not a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I learned that early that women can be in control
Mm,
over men.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So he was a little passive, but he teaching you to be a little bit more aggressive.
Oh, so he was such a good dad, and he
hmm
and he taught all of us. And that was the difference between him and my mom. Like my mom was a screamer.
hmm
Like she just would be tripping, and my dad would come calmly and say the same exact thing, and we would understand what he's saying because he wasn't screaming. You get what I'm saying?
Right. So y'all were more in tune because of that. And I get that. That probably was how they balance each other off a little bit, you know.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I completely get that because, in my household, my dad, well, he can be passive, but my mom is the more she's calmed down a lot now, but she was a little bossy too back then, but she's more calm right now today. So I can
Yeah.
definitely understand the dynamics there. So was there ever a time, because I know you mentioned that you were a daddy's girl, was there ever a time where you felt like he wasn't there for you?
The only time I felt that my dad wasn't there for me was when I was raped at age 15. And that's a story within itself. My first book, Tears in a Bottle, tells that story.
hmm
And so I was just to back up some, I have this older brother and him and I are a year apart. So it was always one of those things where I felt like I was in competition with him
hmm
because the rule was he's a boy, he can do it. I'm like, why can he do it? No, he's a boy, he can do it. So I did go through a period where I was rebellious. So
hmm
I decided, I wasn't supposed to have boyfriends. I wasn't doing none of that. So, but I decided I was having a boyfriend,
hmm
and I was sneaking off with my girlfriend to see this guy. Long story short, I ended up, well, the one day that she did not come with me to see him, and his friend was there, I got raped.
hmm
And so, oh, that's a whole thing. And as a result of that rape, I got pregnant, and
hmm
the baby was born, but I think the baby only lived for maybe like a couple of months. But that
Wow.
was the only time that my dad wasn't there for me. And I remember making that connection between my heavenly daddy and my earthly dad, because I do know that my heavenly daddy was there,
hmm
because things could have went so much,
Yeah.
it could have been so much worse.
hmm
But but that was the time. And so because getting back to my mom, who was the controller in the household,
hmm
and when she found out I was pregnant, she did not want me to tell my dad. It was a whole
Oh,
thing. My mom
wow.
controlled everything that was going on in
Wow.
that house.
How
Did
was
not
that
tell.
though? Like you are in a situation where how old were you?
I was 15
Okay,
when
so
I got
you're
raped.
15 and then you told your mom that you were
Yep.
pregnant and she didn't want you to tell your dad. Like, how was
Oh,
that?
well, the reason why she said she didn't want me to tell my dad is because her plan was to put the baby up for adoption.
Mm,
So nobody in the household, no, like, it's so funny. It's so crazy when I think about it. First of all, I tried to hide the pregnancy, and I think my mom found out when I was 7 months pregnant.
Wow.
That's a story within itself. But my mom's whole thing was, my mom was big on show, the outward show. So she had this beautiful family. She did not want anything changing the way people saw her family, her children, her household. So she immediately told me, "You're putting the baby up for adoption. You're going to continue with your life. You're going to go to college." She gave me a whole thing list of what I was going to do, and
Right.
never telling anybody about this. Like,
Wow. What
about
did that do for
my
like,
siblings. What did that do to?
yeah, for like your mental state?
Girl.
Because I'm just thinking, right? You're 15 years old and
Mm-hmm.
you're having this moment. Well, first of all, hiding it for 7 months. I don't even know how you do that and stay mental. I remember watching a movie one time with a girl where she hid her pregnancy and all of the things that she had to go through just to hide was crazy. And I'm just like, man,
Yes,
it was a
I
true story. And so even just thinking about that process, like what was going through your mind when that happened?
when my mom told me she was going to put the baby up for
Well,
adoption,
even just for like
or just,
even just hiding it, right? Like how are you living every day? Like what are you
oh, hiding
thinking
it.
and
Oh,
all of that before you even get to your mom?
so let me back up some. So I
Okay.
get raped. Like I said, it was the one time that my girlfriend, my best friend, did not come. But it was, I met this guy at on our summer job. And so my girlfriend and I would go down there every weekend I was supposed to be going to modeling school. It's a whole other story. But again, I told you I was rebelling. So instead we would go in this dangerous part of town. Okay. First of all, dangerous, but nothing safe about the whole situation. And we would just, because she was rebelling too. And we would just hang out. Right. But this one particular Saturday, she didn't go. And I did go. And that's when I got raped. So first of all, like many people who are raped, the first thing you think it's all your fault. I shouldn't have been there in the first place. My mom told me, like all the things that my mom, I should not have been there. And my parents going to kill me. Like I remember thinking, there's nothing that I can't even imagine opening my mouth and saying to my parents, number one, that I was raped, number two, that I'm pregnant. Like
Yeah.
that, like you couldn't, I think if somebody had came to me and said, "Listen, I'm gonna give you $1 million to tell your parents you're pregnant," I would have declined,
Yeah.
because especially my dad, I would have never been able to open my mouth to say that. So
Wow.
what I started doing was just acting like life. I did tell my best friend,
Mhm.
and I made her promise, don't tell anyone. So I think she probably thought I had an abortion or something, because we decided we were never going to talk about it again. So she was the only one who knew the whole story. And so I decided I'm going to just hide this pregnancy. Fortunately, I was very small. And when I started showing, I started wearing bigger clothes. Oh my goodness. You talking about my mental state. It was so bad when I think about it. I started taking belts and wrapping belts around my stomach,
Wow.
just doing everything I could to hide this. And so now when I think about it, what did I think? At some point, somebody's going to know.
Yeah.
You cannot hide this forever.
Yeah.
But in my brain,
Hmm.
that part never registered.
Yeah.
That it just never registered. It was like it was almost as if I thought it all was just going to magically go away.
Yeah.
And so I did that for 7 months. And the only reason my mom found out is because I went to school one day, and they have these chartered school buses for my high school. And I was on the bus, and I remember getting sick. I don't know if I started throwing up or felt dizzy or whatever. And so when I went to the school nurse, and the first thing the nurse said was, "Are you pregnant?" And I was like, "No, I'm not pregnant."
And you knew you were pregnant.
And
You just like,
I
nah.
was like,
Hmm.
"I'm not pregnant." I was just not. The nurse was like, "You're pregnant."
Yeah.
So she wrote a note to my mom to take me to the hospital, to the doctor.
Hmm.
Now I get to the doctor, and this nurse, the doctor, I will never forget this. She said, are you pregnant? Because you need to tell me, because we have to take x-rays. So we can't take x-rays of you if you're pregnant. So you need to be honest and tell me if you are pregnant. She says, I won't tell your mom, but you need to tell me the truth. This is what nurse at the hospital said.
Mm-hmm.
So I told her, and she immediately went out in the waiting room and told my mom.
Wow.
How my mom found out.
Wow.
She comes in the room, and my mom, I think she slapped me so hard. I was
Wow.
just stars.
Wow.
So that's how she found out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And to think, like, this was something that occurred as a result of something that was also very traumatic. And I identify with that because I remember I was raped too, just like that, being someplace I knew I wasn't supposed to be. And I held that secret in for a long time because I didn't feel like I was in a safe enough environment to be able to, express that to anybody. And so, my mom found out from another incident that happened, and then they had to examine me in the hospital. And that's when I had to tell, and, they did that whole violation thing, you know what I'm saying? And I was 14 at that time. And so that's how it came. And my mom was like, I'm gonna put pepper between your legs because you're so fast. But it was through rape, but she didn't know, right? She didn't know. She just thought I was out there being wild and wilding out. But because I never got to the part of, no, I was actually raped. You know what I mean? Like, it was actually that. And so, like, I understand the dynamics of that and sharing it. And so after that moment, and she finds out you're pregnant, now she's telling you, you can't tell nobody. It's not even like a thought. It's
Well,
like,
before
okay.
we got to that part, she wanted
Mm-hmm.
to know how, because that's the other thing I didn't even talk about, is how sheltered we were. We were very sheltered. We did not. My parents, we didn't just go out and do stuff like at random without permission. Like, you went to church, you went to school, and whatever other activities you had. Like, my parents usually knew where we were. So in my mother's mind, she's like, when did you do this? When did you have time to do this? Like, what she's trying to think, but when would you have? Because she always kept us, my siblings and I, we were always involved in things. We were always so busy. She tried to make sure you didn't have time for all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but I told her. So I told her what happened, and I told her I was raped. But the crazy thing is, I didn't say I was raped because This is the other thing. I didn't know it was rape because I knew the person. So that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I didn't even realize that it was rape until years later.
Mm-hmm.
But I told my mom what happened, and she immediately told me, give me that person's phone number. Call their house. I was like, but mom, blah, blah. She says, call that house right now. Mm-hmm. I need to speak to that person's parents.
Yeah.
I'm explaining, well, he only has a mom. Is that I don't get that person on the phone. So she calls his mom. Well, she calls him, and his mom picks up the phone. And his mom knew that my friend and I were coming down there. Mm-hmm. Like, this entire summer, we were basically going down there every Saturday. So, but his mom said, oh, I remember Carol. She's a nice girl. And no, her and Donna would come, and they would just sit in the living room because he had a lot of siblings. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't think they were doing anything, his mother said. And because for most part, we weren't doing anything. Yeah. But this particular day, I allowed him to talk me into going to his friend's house. Mm-hmm. So his mother is like, I don't know when something would have happened because I have a house full of kids, she said. Yeah. So I explained to her what happened, and she lost her mind. Wow. This woman said, and I could hear her screaming at him in the background, you are just like your father. Wow. Yeah, so that was the whole thing. My mother was like, I don't care about his father. And that was the other thing. So after that, because I was 15, and I think he had just turned 18. Mm-hmm. And his mom, he went in the service. Because I guess made sure he was gone. He was in the service. So I had never talked to him again after that day on the phone while I'm talking to his mom and my mom. So after that, my mother just hung up the phone. She was so disgusted. And she said, well, this is going to happen. That's we're putting a baby up for adoption. Mm. And You're going to live your life. This is so, and we're not going to talk about this ever again. We're not going to have this conversation again.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and so my mother, so I had two older sisters, and my one sister, I'll never forget, she got pregnant. So my nephew, my mother put him in foster care. So I knew what my mother said to me, this baby is not coming home.
Wow.
Like, the baby gonna be put up for adoption. But she didn't even say the baby's gonna put him. She said up for adoption. But I knew my mother was a woman of her word. So I knew she was serious. And I remember my nephew. So my nephew was put in foster care, but we would see him on the weekends because he would come home. And she wasn't having that with me. You're like, no, you figure it out when you become an adult. So that's how that was that.
Yeah, and that's got to be tough because, in her mind, aside from, trying to maintain an image, is she's thinking that in her mind that she's doing the best for her children so that they can, have the best opportunity to have the best life. And even though that's out of dysfunction, she's probably in her mind thinking this, like, I'm saving you at this point because I understand I got 6 kids here. It's hard. Life is hard.
Right.
Yeah.
And she said, what are you going to do with the baby? I remember her asking me, what are you going to do with the baby? And I'm looking at her like, I have no idea what I'm going to do with the baby. Because I was, even though I was 15, at this point, I think I was 16, because my birthday is in December. So I was not a mature 15, 16-year-old. I was very sheltered, and I had no clue about a lot of things. Okay. Yeah. So when she asked me that question, looking at her like, I have answers for you. So basically whatever you say is going to have to be. I don't even know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And then it goes back to, your dad. Like, it was one of those moments where he wasn't there, but that was kind of like he couldn't be. He couldn't be. So how was it when he eventually found out? Yeah.
Oh, when he found out. When you want to say that broke my heart. So this is how he found out. So after the baby was born, and again, nobody knew. Now, keep in mind, I live in a house full of siblings, my dad, my mom, and nobody knows about this baby, right? And so I would go. So when he was born, he was premature. Because I think after this encounter with my mom in that hospital room, I think he was born like a couple of weeks later. And so they were explaining to me, and I guess I was so clueless. They were explaining to me how he was premature and how he has to stay in the hospital. And so they released me from the hospital, but they kept him in the hospital. And so I'm like, okay. So my routine became I would go to school. After school, I would go straight to the hospital to see him. And then I would go home. That became my routine. And so my mother and I did not have a discussion about it. We didn't talk about it, but that became my routine. So I would go to school, go to the hospital, see the baby, go home, start again tomorrow. So this one particular day, I don't know, I think I was tired or whatever. I didn't feel like going to the hospital. So I said, I'm not going to go to the hospital today. I'm going to go straight home. So I start approaching my house, and we had a front porch, and I will never forget this. So it's like all these police officers on my front porch with my dad, right? And I'm like, oh my God, like, why are police? What's going on? I'm thinking. So I walk up to the porch, and my dad's like, I'm like, Dad, what's going on? And he said, baby, I don't know what's going on. He said these people were talking about a baby in the hospital, and the baby died. And I was just like, what? Like,
wow.
what? Like, say what? Like, back up. What do you mean? Right. So it was, talking about confusion. So basically, because when the baby passed away, they could not reach anyone. I don't even know if they still do that these days, but that's what they did back then. So what they will do is send someone to your house to break the news. So because they couldn't contact my mom all day, they couldn't contact me, they couldn't contact anyone, they decided to come to the house to let the family know that the baby passed away.
Wow.
Now my dad has no clue. Like, first of all, what baby are you talking about? Nobody here has a baby. Like, he's going through this whole thing, and then I had to stop him. And the police officers are like, listen, sir, this, that, and the other. I was like, Dad. I said, Dad. And he's like, what, baby? I'm trying to figure out what they're talking about. I said, Dad, there was a baby. There was a baby. I said, I had a baby. He's like, what? I think he had something
Wow.
or something. Now we're all out on the front porch. He drops the cup. He's just like, what did you just say? And the officers are like, okay, we came to do what we had to do. We're leaving now, sir. Like, basically, you guys figure that out. So that's what my dad. I never this look on my dad's face, and I could just see the heartbreak. It was just so bad, and I remember he just broke out in this cry, this sigh, this noise. I was just like,
Yeah.
I am so sorry. He said, what happened? I'm so confused. And I told him what happened. I got raped, I got pregnant, and mommy said not to tell you, but see, he knew his wife, so he knew that would be what she would do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So he was just like, she told you not to tell. That messed him up.
Yeah.
You know that his daughter was going through all of this and he doesn't know anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
That messed him up.
Because what would that
That was
have
the whole
also
thing.
been doing to you? That's almost taking him out of the equation to even be there for you during that process. And maybe he would have been, because
Right.
I'm sure, your routine was, I'm going to go see my baby after school, So obviously it's your
Yeah.
child, so you're still attached. And so I'm probably thinking, in your mind, you're
Right.
like, I'm not giving up my baby. I'm keeping my baby. He might have been there. Maybe she didn't want to tell him because he might have tried you to not allow you to give it away. I don't know
Well,
what the
he would
reason
have
was.
definitely tried to make.
Yeah.
He would have given options.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. He would have given options. She's gonna give her option.
Yeah.
One option. He would have given options.
Yeah.
But so that was the difference between the two. But so now once he found out, that was it. It was so bad. So then my mom comes home and they have the conversation and they're in the bedroom upstairs having their conversation. And I'm just like, oh my God. Now, meanwhile, my siblings are coming home from school and they're all looking at me like, what's going on? What's going on? And I was like, you have to ask mommy. You have to ask. Like if my mom said don't talk something, you don't tell it. So you have to ask
Wow.
mommy. So now they go down the steps and they're like, all right, we're gonna go to the hospital. My siblings are like, where's she going? I want to go. I want to go. Why are you taking her? I want to go. We're like, no, you're staying here. So they said, we're going to the hospital. I want you to see the baby. And obviously, this is the last time you're going to see the baby. So we want you to understand that. And at this point, I'm telling you, at this point, I don't know what I'm feeling. I have no idea what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should cry. I don't know if I didn't know what I was feeling. But I never forget. So originally he had all these tubes in. So when I would visit him, he had all these tubes. So when I went back to the hospital with my parents, he didn't have any tubes. He was just this little baby in this little blanket. And I did name him Stephen Sean. And he was so little, this cute little brown little baby boy. And that's all I remember about him. Right. And so after that, my mom said, we're never going to talk about this again. This is it.
Yeah.
Like, we're never gonna talk about this again. My dad just gave his look, and that was the end of it. So we never talked about it again.
Wow.
Now, my siblings, they know nothing about this, and I do believe that caused a real issue between my mom and dad. Because I know after that it was like a whole thing between the two of them, and nobody knew what was going on except the three of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's traumatic because never talking about silence is the enemy's keeper. And so not only can you not talk about it, but how do you even heal from something that you don't even understand what's happening? No therapy, no anything. It's just shut it down immediately. So tell me, how did that,
So
what did that do?
So keep it secret. Everything's It messed me up, but the thing is, I didn't know I was messed up.
Yeah.
Like I was messed up, but I didn't know I was messed up because when my mamas and my family is like, listen, we are strong, we can handle anything, we're gonna be okay, you're gonna be okay, you're gonna be a smart girl, you're gonna be okay. So that was in my mind. So my goal is, okay, I'm gonna get myself together here. I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna graduate from high school, I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna live my life just like my mama said I was gonna do.
Yeah.
But of course, I got distracted and detoured by marrying, because after that, let me just tell you this, my mother, our relationship was never the same again. I mean, I love my mom. I know my mom loved me, but there was just something there that we just could not get past. It was just like, it was a lot. So I really just wanted to move out.
Yeah,
To move
yeah,
out.
yeah. So now from that, getting into relationships.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So now the next serious relationship I get into is my pastor's son at church.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's excited about this because he's the pastor's son.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's excited because my family's excited, his family's excited because, they like, she's good, her family's good,
Mm-hmm.
he's good. So him and I decided we were getting married because we both had the same goal. We basically wanted to get out of our parents' house.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Like, let's get
knew
married. Let's get married so we don't have to live with our
the only way
parents.
to get out. Like, they would afford to do whatever we want. We can do whatever we want, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was our plan, and that's what we did. So we got married at 19.
And your parents were
And
okay with
when we
that.
got married, they were both on both sides, they were all so happy. That's the
Mm-hmm.
crazy thing when I look back, all the adults were so happy.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have a granddaughter and she's 19 years old. I don't think so. Okay.
Yeah.
But they were so happy. And when I think back, I guess that must have been a thing back then because a lot of my friends, we all got married at 19. I
Mm-hmm.
have like at least 4 friends that we got married at.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so we get married and it was crazy because our parents basically, we had a home, we had a car, like we didn't want for anything. And so my whole goal for this marriage was, because we both had goals, his whole thing was, his lifelong goal and dream was to become a professional football player. So he would always go back and forth to these football camps. So my whole goal was, I want a baby. Okay. So that's all I wanted out of this marriage. Like, give me a baby, a healthy baby. That's all I wanted.
Do you think
Not
that's
even at the
because,
time making the
yeah,
at the time I didn't make the connection.
yeah, that's what I was about to ask. I
But
was gonna say, do you think it was
looking back,
because of the loss? Yeah.
exactly what it was. But at the time, I didn't even think about that. It's like, I want a baby. So he's like, oh, whatever, I don't care. We can have a baby. We can make a baby. So this is how intentional I was. And I remember telling my mom, and I told my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, and my dad, everybody. So we got married like October, I think the 13th, right? And his birthday is October the 4th. So I remember telling everybody, I made this whole big announcement. We're going to have a baby either on his birthday or our anniversary next year. And they're like, girl, sit down somewhere. What are you talking about? I'm telling you, this is what I'm praying for. This is what I'm planning for. This is what's going to happen. And my mom was like, that's not the way it happens. Mom, I'm telling you. So anyway, I did exactly what I said I was going to do. And my son was born October the 11th.
Mm.
So right after his dad's birthday, a week after his dad's birthday, and right before our first year wedding anniversary. And that's how I planned it, and that's how it worked out.
Yeah.
So they were all like, you said out there, so I did. And so we were so happy about my son. Everybody was so happy about my son. So he was well loved, by both sides of the family, both parents. And I was never happier, girl. I was never happier. I think that's all I cared about was I had another brown little boy. I was so happy.
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
tell me anything. So all was wonderful in the marriage until I would say maybe like 2 years or so, and maybe like 2 or 3 years, I don't remember. But he was, like I told you, his lifelong dream was to become a professional football player. And they had this league called the USFL. And so he would go away to play football, and it was a seasonal league. And so initially he would take my son and I with him. But then this one particular summer, he decides he's not going to take us. He gave me all the excuses in the world why he couldn't take us. And so I'm like, well, okay, fine. My coach this, my coach that. Like, okay, fine. And again, I'm still clueless. Okay. I'm getting older, but I'm still clueless. If you tell me something, I totally trust it and believe that what you said is true because you told me. I believe you. Why would I not believe you? So anyway, he goes away to football camp that summer and he comes back in the fall, and things were never the same again.
Mm.
So he comes back, and so that summer while he was gone, I think I took some additional college classes and just basically stayed home and took care of my son. And I was happy, really.
Mm-hmm.
But when he came back, a couple of weeks after he came back, I get this phone call from this girl who tells me that oh my God, he was such a chronic liar. Not to
Yeah.
make a long story short, it was a whole thing with that. But she calls me and she's calling him because she apparently was with him that summer at football camp.
The whole summer.
I'm like, excuse me? Oh,
Wow.
that's starting to register why he didn't want me and my son to come. So she's like, no. And she says that we came back to Philly, and she says, and I have not heard from him since. So that's why I'm calling.
What?
Well, girl, that's not even the worst of it. But she said, that's why I'm calling. She said, and I'm pregnant. That's not even the worst.
What?
She said, and she's calling because she saw him on his motorcycle with someone else and rode right past him and ignored her.
Wow.
So now she's trying to get in touch with him because she wants to know what's going on. So I'm like, first of all, I'm his wife.
So she knew you was married. She knew he was married.
Knew he had gotten married, because that's what I asked her, because apparently they went to high school together. But she said that he told her that we were divorced or something. He made up some kind of lie. He was a chronic liar. I didn't find that out till later either. So I said to her, well, no, we have never been separated. We are still married. Like, we have never been separated, other than when he went away to football camp and had you with him, apparently. And I said, and I don't know what you're talking about, a girl with him. Like, it was just so crazy. So anyway, but I stayed on the phone with this girl for a couple of hours while she gave me all the details, because I didn't understand how all of this was coming together. I didn't understand. So she started telling me things. So apparently she was like, I don't understand how you two were married, and I spent so much time with him. And I'm thinking, I don't understand how you think he's not married. But then she started telling me things, like, for example, she says, we've even spent New Year's Eve together. Where were you? And I started thinking, he was so crafty, such a liar. And oh my goodness, he was so diabolical. So when she said that about New Year's Eve, I said, so this is what happened New Year's Eve. Him and I were supposed to go out. We're all dressed. We even have a babysitter for the baby, which is his parents. We go to his parents to drop the baby off. While we're there, he gets one of his friends to call him, right? And all of his friends cheated. They were cheaters too, right? He gets his friend to call him to tell him to come help him to change a tire because he had a tire blowout, blah, blah, blah. So he says, I'm going to go help Steve. He has a flat tire. I'm going to go help him. But when I come back, just stay here. When I come back, we're going out. So of course, okay, sure. I stay. He never comes back.
Yeah.
So when she's telling me about New Year's Eve, she said, I was like, that makes sense. We did not spend New Year's Eve together. So there was a lot of information that she was giving me, where I started putting pieces of the puzzle together that made sense.
Yeah.
I was just like,
yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. You trusted him. And so you didn't even have any reason to question anything that he said. And so you just went with it.
I just went with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's when the abuse started in our marriage, because I found out he cheated on me, and he really just left this girl. Like, he ignored this girl, what they would call now ghosted her. He didn't even give her the time of day because he had moved on to somebody else. So I had to start thinking about what she was saying. She saw him on his motorcycle with somebody else. Well, who was this somebody else? So then I'm starting to think to myself, has he been cheating all the time, the entire time? He was cheating the entire time. Even though we got married, he never stopped being single.
Yeah.
He had a marriage license.
Yeah.
So now this other girl, the one that she saw him with on the motorcycle, is the one that would call my house after he would leave her to tell me everything in graphic detail, everything they were doing while he was with her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sad
So the
chicks be
marriage,
bold.
yeah, yep.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that's when the abuse started because he did not want me to tell him not to go out to see other women. Basically, I guess he wanted me to just let him do what he wanted to do. But
Yeah.
no, I don't think so. I'm your wife. We have a child. You need to be here with us. We're your family. And so that's when the fights would start.
Yeah. Because he wanted to live a double life,
Yes.
the pastor's child.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
yeah, that's why I hear a lot of people be like, I ain't dating no pastor kids, you know?
You know, it's like, it's not even about the pastor kids. It's like people, cheaters are cheaters. You don't even have to be a pastor child. Men, there are so many women that are married and think their husbands are the perfect husband, and their husbands are cheating, and they ain't no pastor child. So I found out, that's when I realized in life that, I mean, obviously I knew people cheated, but I didn't know it was so severe. So like, you're such a liar. You know how many
Yeah.
lies you have to tell and how many layers of lies you have to tell to get away with this thing?
Yeah, it's too much. It takes too much energy. I don't understand. That remind me of a time. So my baby daddy, one time, we were living together at the time, and he's kind of like your ex-husband in terms of this man did never stay home. I was pregnant with my daughter, and we were going back and forth at it for so long. And I remember one night, he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna take you out. I'm gonna make you feel special, all of this." And man, I got dressed because he's like, "I'm gonna take you to this nice restaurant." I got dressed and I sat there and I waited and I waited and I waited and I waited, and I didn't see him until probably about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock the next day. He came in the house with dirt and mud all over his body. Okay. And he came like he was in trauma. And so he comes with this story about how he went to a friend's house and their house got raided by the police, and how he had to run outside and sleep in the woods, right? Because he was hiding from the police. Keep in mind, this is in the middle of winter. It's probably negative 10 degrees outside. And you telling me you slept outside in the woods. And so his friend liked me, right? And so he was like, I watched this dude roll around in the mud outside. He was with some chicks because we were all out together. And I'm just like, it's the extreme of the lie. Like, why would you even go outside and roll around, like mess up some good clothes just so that you could prove a point so I could believe your lie? But I'm saying that to say men do stupid stuff like
Yes.
that. When they cheaters, they're cheaters, just like you say. Just like you say.
Yes, they're liars, and it's amazing to me how they lie. Like, when I
Yeah.
found out how many lies he had told me while we were married, I was just like nothing about you is true. You are
Yeah.
a whole liar.
Wow. And then you mentioned, that's
So,
when the abuse started. So, walk us through like what that first experience was like for you when, that first abuse occurred.
well, the first hit was, now when I think back, there were there was some verbal abuse,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know that's what that was because it was like he's
Mm-hmm.
just talking crazy right now. So,
Yeah.
but the first time he hit me, I remember thinking, first of all, I was shocked.
Yeah.
So he wanted to go out, and I'm just like, no, you were already out last night, but like we want you to stay here with us, and I want you to watch a movie. We can do. I'm naming all the things we could do. He's like, no, I have to go out, and he would always have an excuse. I have to do this for so and so. I got to do this. I got to do that. My parents want me to do this. I'm like, don't use your parents because I can call your parents, and your parents will tell me the truth. So stop. Don't use your parents. So he had people in his life that will cover up for him. So anyway, we're going back and forth, and finally, and I said, you know what? If you walk out that door, don't even come back.
Mm.
Don't even think about coming back. And that put him in such a rage. Like he was
Mm.
just turned around. I remember he turned around. He looked like a whole different person. He was just like, "What do you mean I don't come back? This is my house." I'm like,
Mm.
"Okay, this is our house."
Yeah.
And that's when he hit me, and I'm thinking, what did you just like? I remember being shocked,
Yeah.
like in shock.
Yeah.
Now, this is the person that I've known him my entire life.
Yeah.
First of all, he looked like a whole new person.
Yeah.
And he was a big guy. That's the other thing. I've always been like, I'm a small girl, always been petite, small. He was a big guy with these big hands, with this big fist. I cannot believe you just punched me with that fist.
Yeah.
Like I remember being, and when I got myself together, I remember thinking, I can't believe, first of all, I can't believe you hit me. And he just looked at me and walked right out the door.
Yeah. Wow. It was just like, wow, I'm gonna hit you. Like, this is me taking my stand.
Have you joined the waitlist for my brand new book, Hey God, Can I? This is your go-to ABC guide for married saints. Bring your questions about God, sex, and intimacy. This isn't just a book. It's a resource to help you grow spiritually while strengthening your marriage bed. So if you've ever wondered what God really says about sex and intimacy, this book is for YOU. Tap the link, sign up for the waitlist, and be the first to know when it drops. Don't wait, sis. Get on the list today.
Saying that you're not gonna tell me what to do.
I don't have a black eye.
Wow.
So again, so this is when it all started. So now I guess my son must have been about like 3 years old or so. And so I remember some family members or something come, because the thing is, like, our families were close. Like, even where we lived in that block, family also lived on that block. So his auntie lived a couple of doors down. So we were always surrounded by family.
Yeah.
So and we just would leave the doors unlocked, but people would just come in, family would come in and out. So I remember the next day his aunt came over. I think she baked us something. She came over, she came out. She was like, oh, what happened to your eye?
Yeah.
And I made up a lie and said, I'll never forget, I made up this
Classic.
lie and said that my son threw a football, his toy football.
Yeah.
And it hit me in my eye.
Yeah.
And that's how this happened.
Yeah. The
and
classic.
After that, I made up lies. Things were. Isn't that crazy how I just started, after that, I just would always have reasons why things were happening.
Wow. Because you were taught to keep silent.
That's crazy.
And you knew how much your families liked each other. So even in marriage, you were still protecting him.
Yep.
That's
That's why I love serving women, and because all of these secrets, I always tell people, you are as sick as your secrets.
Mm-hmm.
You are as sick as your secrets. So many people are so, like, they're sick emotionally, physically, even in your, like, physically, because of all those secrets.
Yeah.
And so now I'm covering for him.
Yeah.
That's because honestly, I had brothers, I had nephews, like, really, and that was the other thing I remember thinking too, especially my older brother, he would have killed him.
Yeah.
Dad would have killed him. So I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to get all these people involved
because you know what's going to happen. Yeah.
I got in jail, so I can handle it. I know him. I could fix this. I could make this thing.
Yeah.
Thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, Daddy would have probably would have tried to make up for the baby. You know, like the anger and the rage. Like, I know I gotta protect you.
My dad would kill him. My brother would have killed him.
Yeah.
I have a nephew. They would have killed. Like, I'm just thinking of the males about. He would have been gone.
Yeah.
He would have been gone, and they would have been in jail. So I'm thinking about all of this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How bad did the abuse get?
So it really wasn't like every day. Again, it was only when he felt like I was trying to control his moves. And so I remember I told you how my mom was very controlling. Of course, he knew my mom.
Yeah.
He was a child. So he was trying to use that against me. He was like, you're not going to control me the way your mom controls your dad. I'm like, this has nothing to do with that. You are a cheater. You're a chronic cheater. And so I remember my son, I can't remember how old he was, because he could talk, but he wasn't really, there was something about what, some of this stuff actually, some of it is still blurry. But anyway, I remember my son, he would pick my son up from daycare. And my son would come home, and I would always talk to my son, how was your day? How was your day? Did your daddy stop and get you fries and things like that? And my son would be like, oh, we had a good time, this, done that, we did this, we did that. But my son started saying to me, but we stopped by Glennie's house, right? I was like, down a few doors down from us is his cousin Glenn. So I don't know if his mom would always watch him as well sometimes. So I'm thinking that's what he's talking about, right? So we stopped by Glennie's house. I was like, oh, okay, what you do? Because I know if you're down there, you're gonna get food, you're gonna be having a good time.
Yeah.
So first time he said it, I didn't really think about it. The second time he said it, the third time, I was like, something's not adding. I said, tell me more about Glennie.
Yeah.
I'm like, you mean like is in your auntie son? He's like, no, Glennie is a girl, a lady.
Wow.
I'm like,
Wow.
I know, thinking to myself, I know he's not taking my son around a woman. So I'm trying to remember how old my son was, but this little boy, this is crazy when I think about this. I said to him, do you think you could show me where Glennie lives? I said, where does she live? And he started describing the neighborhood. I said, so we're going to get in a car, right? And I want you to kind of like show me the way your dad drives when he takes you to Glennie's house.
Yeah.
My little son, and he could be about 3 years old, showed me how to get to this girl's house.
Which means
And
that
we
he had
get
been
to
there
her
a lot of times.
a lot because he's just a little child.
Yeah.
So we get there and we see his car out. And I was like, so I don't know where. And my son obviously didn't know an address, but we're just driving through the neighborhood where my son basically took me to. But then I see his dad's car in her car. I was like, oh my God. But now I'm thinking, this is not going to be good. This is not going to be good.
Yeah.
So I take my son and I knock on the door and I'm just like, and she answers the door. And this is the first time I ever met this girl because I did not know her from anybody. I didn't know her. So he's right behind her. He's like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? What are you doing? And you got my son here. Oh, you bring your son here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't bring your son here, but you bring your son. We got into this whole argument. And then later on, and I just took my son and I said, you know what? I don't want my son to remember this, his mom going back and forth with this woman and all of this. So I took him home. But later on, when he came home, that's when we got into another fight. And I remember he hit me so hard in my stomach. Almost knocked me out. And I just remember thinking, I feel like I'm in jail, like in prison here. Like, what do I do about this? Like, what? Oh, because the other thing he would always say to me is, he's like, you can leave anytime you want. If you don't like the way things are, you can leave, but you cannot take my son with you.
Yeah.
So there were times when we would get into arguments and he would literally put me outside on the front porch in my sock with no coat in the wintertime, no shoes, just out there. And my son is like in his 40s now, right? And I remember a few years ago he was telling me, Mom, I remember when my daddy used to put you out on the porch. And he said, and I used to look through the window and see you freezing because it was cold outside and snow outside. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. So it was bad. So at that point, I realized I am leaving. I knew I was leaving, but I didn't know how and I didn't know when. Yeah. But I knew I was leaving. I knew it was not going to be something. This was not going to be my life. So I just had to figure out how to figure this thing out. Where when I go, I'm taking my son with me. So the defining moment was when him and she had left a pair of her sunglasses in his car, and I found them and I threw them away, and he flipped out about these sunglasses. So we're fighting about these sunglasses, and the next thing I remember him strangling me. And when I came to hours later, originally the fight started downstairs. But hours later, I'm laying on the bed. I come to because I was out cold. I was unconscious. I come to, and I'm in my bedroom in the bed. And I'm thinking, oh my God, how did I get up here? And I look at the foot of the bed, and my son's at the foot of the bed playing with his toys. And I look on the other side of the room, and he is curled up in a corner, talking to his dad, saying to his dad, "You need to come to the house because I killed Carol." Wow! Like I can still hear those words. Like he thought he killed me. And I'm thinking to myself, no, you will not have the opportunity to kill me. This is God's way of telling me, girl, you need to figure this thing out. You need to figure it out quick.
Yeah. And just to even think about the picture of that, right? Like you are, because I've had friends. I've had a friend in high school, this just a couple of years ago, where she was in a situation and she was strangled, but she didn't make it, right? Just thinking about how you're in that moment, not even knowing, and you wake up and he's thinking that you're dead. Like it's almost like you're having like a surreal moment at this time. But the fact that this is happening in front of your child,
Mm-hmm.
like that's crazy.
It was crazy.
So at that moment, what was your next step?
So now my next step is, okay, now I need to figure out how to get the heck out of here with my son. So I called his dad. Obviously, his dad at this point, because up until this point, our families didn't really know what was going on. His dad, he suspected something, but he wasn't sure. Because I remember at some point he had told me, daughter, I don't know what's going on, but when you're ready to talk, let me know. When you're ready to whatever, when you're ready, I remember saying, when you're ready, you let me know. So I'm like, Dad, you're tripping. Ready for what? Knowing perfectly what he's talking about, right? So at this point, I'm thinking, you're talking to your dad on the phone. So I called him and I was like, Dad, I said, this is what's happening. This is what's been happening. He's calling you, telling you he thought he'd kill me. And I said, he says, daughter, you don't need to say anything else. You tell me what you want me to do. You tell me what you want me to do.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm saving money because I had been saving money. I said, and I'm looking for an apartment. I said, for both us, me and TJ, I said, because I'm not leaving here without my son. And he's always telling me I can't leave without my son. So that's where I need you to intervene, because he had such a respect for his dad. Like anybody who ever knew his dad,
Yeah.
you had such a respect for this man. He was just such a beautiful person and so respected in the community that if anybody who ever encountered him, you respected him. You could be like the worst person in the world, but when you encountered this man's presence, you got it together even for a moment. So
Yeah.
I said, Dad, I just need you to be here. And then I called a couple of my friends, and so we all came up with a date, and they all came to the house, and that's how I moved. That's how I left out, because he was not going to let me go with my son,
Yeah.
and he was not going to fight me with his dad there. Now, if I
Yeah.
would have just went with my two girlfriends, he would have fought me. He didn't care about them like that. But his dad being there, he was not going to fight me.
Yeah, yeah, and I love how, God even intervened for you in that moment because he gave you support during that time, right? It was like God was looking out for you in that moment because he knew you needed to get out and he created the way for you to be able to do it. And I also love the fact
Yeah,
that, you know, he like as a dad, you know your children. So you know something ain't right. And so he
okay.
knew something wasn't right, but he knew that you were
Mm-hmm.
holding on, but he still respected that and waited for you to come. But he was giving you opportunities to be able to, you know, produce that on your own without forcing you to do it. And that's how I love because, in a situation like
That's
yours, you need outlets. You need people to say, okay, when you're ready, come and come and I'll help
when you're
you.
ready. That's key. Yep, that's key. Because a lot of times people judge and, oh, girl, you're so stupid. You need to get out of there. I don't know what I do. It couldn't be me talking crazy. But the thing is, and I always tell people, you don't really know the crazy that somebody's really dealing with. So everybody can't just walk out the door. I mean, I know women who are no longer here who decided, I'm just going to walk out the door.
Yeah.
Okay. You really have to have a safe escape plan. I would call it a safe escape plan. You have to involve other people. And, sometimes you may even have to leave the state, because I thought I was going to have to leave the state.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. After you moved, did it end there or was there still like issues going on?
Oh my goodness. When I moved, he stalked me for years. So when I moved, okay, this was the thing. Initially, I wanted to move to Florida because I'm thinking, I know him. I know this man. He's not going to just let me leave without, and I'm never going to hear from him. It's just not going to happen. And I have his son, so I already know it's not going to happen. So, but then I decided that I was not going to move to Florida because my son loved both his parents. Like, children don't understand all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I told them, they see things happen, but they don't understand. But most children, they just love their mama and they love their daddy. So my son loved his mom and he loved his daddy, and he didn't understand the separation part.
Yeah.
So I made sure I moved close enough, And I told my son, I said, you know what, your daddy loves you, because he was never abusive to my son. He was abusive to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and if you want to see your daddy, you can see your daddy anytime you want. I said, but mommy is not going to see your dad, because we're not going to be married anymore. Like so when you want to see your dad, you can call your pop, and somebody can go bring you to your dad. Like because I never wanted him to feel like I was taking his dad away from him.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so I move out, and he comes up to my job, starting arguments and fights and stalking me, and oh my goodness. And I never forget, I had this friend in DC. Like, we had been separated, I'm talking like a couple of years, and this happened, right? You know what I'm saying? For years, he still was obsessed with me and my son. And he would tell people, that's my wife, that's my son. Like, nobody better don't look at my wife. My son.
Yeah.
So I remember it's like 2 years into us being separated, because that was the other thing. He would never sign the divorce papers. He said, I'm never going to divorce you. And I was like, I don't really care. After being married to you, I never want to be married to anybody else. So I didn't really care. So, I didn't care, because I really didn't. I didn't, at that point, I didn't care. I just didn't want us to live under the same roof. Yeah. So I never forget, I was dating this guy, and he was at my apartment. But that was the other thing. He would tell my son, you know, if your mom, well, he would tell him, I am your dad, so no other man should be around you or your mom, because I am your dad. Okay, so if another man is around you or your mom, you let me know. Like, they use the children, they use the children a lot. Yeah. So I wasn't aware he was having these conversations with my son until later on. So a friend of mine came. So my son, he picked my son up, because we did get to a point where he could pick my son up and take him home, right? With him. And so I had this weekend planned with my girlfriends, and we were going to go to, I think, Wildwood, like the beach and everything, for the weekend. They were like, girl, you're so stressed out, because I was still stressed out with him. Everything he was doing he was still making my life miserable. Yeah. So they were like, we need to get away. We're going to go away. And so in the midst of it, we had planned this weekend trip. But meanwhile, this friend of mine who lived in DC, originally from Philly, he called me. He said, I'm coming back to Philly for the weekend. I would love to see you. I said, well, I'm going to be away. I'm going away this weekend with my girls. So he said, all right, well, I'll come on Friday. I'll just stop by and say hi to you before I go see my parents or whatever. I'm like, okay. So he comes to my apartment. So while he's in my apartment, of course, this nut comes back, because he finds out some kind of way. He found out I was going away for the weekend. So he's assuming I'm going away with this male friend, but really I'm not going away. And even if I was, it's none of your business. But anyway, this is what it was. Being separated from him, right? Mm-hmm. So he comes back to the apartment. I'm like, where is my son? Like, why are you here without him? Because I heard you had some, he's starting all this. And I'm just like, and I told you he's a real guy. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people were intimidated by him. Like, either you loved him or you hated him. He was just that type of person. So, but my friend is like, I ain't scared of you, man, because guess what? I got a bling bling. He's like, you the type that I don't have to use that. I already know I'm gonna have to use it, right? I was like, no, guys, I'm not doing none of that. Mm-hmm. So anyway, they get into a fight, because he's trying to make my friend leave. Yeah. Because he think I'm a beer weekend. Now they're fighting. I'm in the middle. Guess what I get? Another black eye. Wow. So now I had to go on the phone, call my father-in-law, like, Dad, he's here, he's causing problems, da-da-da. So my dad
came. And this is years after you have moved out.
Separated. We are not even living in the same house. No, we just have a son together. This is years later after I left. So that's what I tell people, just because somebody leaves, that don't mean anything. I know people that are dead that left. They left, and years later, I have a friend that she left, and this guy plotted on her and followed her and stalked her for years before he actually killed her, unalived her. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you're in the clear just because you leave. So anyway, so my father-in-law comes, talks him out, talk to him, tell him to leave, takes him out, right? So now I'm going away this weekend with my friends with this black eye with these sunglasses. They're like, girl, what happened? I'm just like, it's just never ending. Wow. And but it didn't stop until he found somebody else. So once he started seeing somebody else, thank you, Jesus, right?
Yeah.
And move in with him, then that's when he kind of left me alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was years later. And
Yeah.
so he was abusive to her as well.
Well, of course, because, it at that point that's in him.
Yep.
So he still hasn't learned how to manage those feelings or emotions and how to, exhibit that. And so I know that had to be rough for you being in a situation where you can't even date properly. You're trying to move on with your life, but this man just would not let you be great. And now he's in a relationship. And so now you're like, freedom when you start seeing it less and less.
Well, kind of, sort of, because his main focus was not me, but he really had this thing. Like I said, we grew up together, and he was very popular, and people who knew him knew me, and they knew my son. So they knew I was married to him. They knew who his son was, and so he just had the word out. That's my wife. That's my son. Don't like it. She's off limits.
Yeah.
So, so even though we were not together, and even though he was with her, he still had this weird obsession with me. He always had a weird obsession with me and my son. Like, I mean, we don't have time. If I could tell you some stories, you'd be like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah. So then how did you start moving on? Because eventually you were able to, I don't know, what was your process of pretty much weaning from him to be able to, open up yourself to love somebody again?
Well, the crazy thing is, I didn't think I would ever love anybody. I became so bitter and so angry. And I was so mean to men. Like, if I was walking down the street and a man gave me a compliment, I would give him the worst look. Like, if looks could kill. So I went through that for years where I did not want to be bothered. I did not. I mean, with the exception of my brothers and close men that are close to me, I didn't trust any of them. Like, I did not trust you. If you were a male, I did not trust you. So so I really, I'm trying to think when I finally realized how messed up I was. Like, even though I left him, I was still unhealed and I was still messed up.
Yeah.
So for a long time, I would date, but I would not be serious with anyone. So then finally, so I left him when my son was 5. And the next serious person I was with, my son was 15.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah. So I end up getting remarried.
Yeah.
And the backup son, my son's dad had passed away in between that. Yeah. So I end up getting remarried, and that marriage was not physically abusive. It was financially abusive. And there were a lot of other issues because, again, I never healed. And then he has all his issues that he never healed from. He had been divorced. So it was like you got these two people, unhealed people.
Wounded.
And we talked about it later, but it was just a mess. It was a complete mess. And so leading up to our divorce, and I ended up spiraling into a depression. And then after he left, because he left me in so much debt, like when we got married, I had A1 credit. And this man, we were married for 12 years. When we split up, my credit was so bad because throughout the marriage, he used my credit. So he left me in financial ruins.
Yeah.
So financial abuse. And again,
more scars.
Right? So you have, and so I told you, at some point you have to heal. So I had to begin to heal. So I'm in the mirror, I'm going through this depression. I don't even know what it is, depression. I'm just depressed, depression, going through this thing. I'm not eating, I'm not going out, I'm not getting dressed. Sometimes I wasn't taking showers, I wasn't doing anything. And so finally, just to back up some, because we were always having financial issues, we had agreed to have my current husband, the one I'm married to now, the one that I'm happy with blissfully married to now.
Mm-hmm.
We had agreed to allow him to use our garage for storage because he was a contractor.
Mm-hmm.
So make some money, okay? Because money was always an issue.
Right, right.
So anyway, so now he's gone, and we're getting divorced, and I am done. I'm lost. I'm telling you, I didn't even know one day from the next. I wasn't eating.
Yeah.
It just the days were just. I was just going through the motions, and I didn't realize I was in a depression. And so now, because he was renting, my current husband was renting our garage out, so he would come once a week to get tools out, and he would just leave, take tools, put them in, get in the driveway, take tools, put on his truck, and leave. But this one particular day, he came and he realized that I didn't have any electricity. Because again, this man left me in financial ruin. So now, if you can only imagine, I have a house and the house runs on electric, like
Wow.
everything in the house, everything is electric, including the heat in the
Wow.
wintertime.
And you in Philly, so I
So
know it was cold.
they say, you know, it's cold, right? So he goes into the garage, and the garage was attached to the house, but it was another door that like you had to come in through. He would have had to come in through my family room, but we always kept that door locked, so like it was no
Mhm.
big deal. So they could come in and leave. But this particular day, he comes and he realizes there's no electricity.
Mm.
Like, so he goes around front, he rings the bell. Because he was always a gentleman. He was just like, oh, he couldn't ring the bell. The bell wasn't working. I know what it was. He kept knocking on the door. He kept knocking on the door. And I was just like, why are you knocking on my door like that? Because I was so angry and mean. And he was a family friend.
Mhm.
This guy, I was so mean to him. It's ridiculous. So I said, why are you knocking on my door like that? He said, well, first of all, the bell doesn't work. He says, are you okay? You don't have any the electricity's not on. Now, the backup son, during that time, my son had lost his wife to breast cancer. So he was going through that. Because
Mm.
my family, I'm the one that everybody depend on for everything. But
Yeah.
I was in my way, and everybody was going through their own thing. My father-in-law had passed away like earlier that year. So it was like a lot of things happening.
Wow.
And I was just fending for myself. And he was just like, are you in there with no electricity? He said it's cold. And at first, initially, I was like, mind your business. Just go to the garage, get your tool. Whatever you do in the garage, that's what you do. Like, don't come to my front door.
Yeah.
Okay? Come to my front door. Okay.
Mhm.
Why are you at my front door?
Yeah.
So apparently, he must have talked to, because he's my niece's dad, and I guess he must have talked to them because they're twins, and he must have said, what's going on, Carol? And they were like, well, she's getting divorced. They just thinking everybody's like, well, she's just getting divorced, so she's going through. He was like trying to tell people, no, it's deeper than that. Like, you people are not listening to me. This
Yeah.
girl is not doing well, and so he would come back to the house again. He said, so anyway, he said, well, all right, I'm gonna go away. I said something like, well, don't worry about it. They're gonna put the electricity on. I forget what I said to him. So he was like, okay, okay. So he left, but then like a week later, he comes back, the electricity's still on. So now
Mhm.
he's like, that's it. He said, no. He said, I don't want to be in your business, but I am concerned. Like, are you talking to your son? Like, you're talking to your sister? Like, what? Who are you? Are you talking to anybody in your family? Because I don't think your family know that you're here living
Mhm.
like this.
Yeah.
I was like, my family's caught up with their own stuff, and don't bother my son because he's grieving over his wife and da 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 da. And so he's just like, but who's taking care of you? I remember thinking, like, who's looking out for you? He said, this because see, keep in mind, he saw me in
Mhm.
ministry with my ex, and my ex and I were like a power couple in ministry.
Mhm.
So he would always see me dressed nice and looking nice, and he see me looking a whole hot mess, hair all over my head. I don't know, honestly, I don't know what I was smelling like. But I'm not even gonna lie.
Mhm.
He knew that I needed help. And so he said to me, oh, he started leaving me little sandwiches in a mailbox. And he would call me or text me like, I left you a sandwich, I left you a hoagie in the mailbox. Please eat today. And
Wow.
I would wait for him to pull that truck off and go around the corner or run out there and get that hoagie girl.
Wow.
And so he started leaving me food. And then he started coming to the front, the porch where I could sit out there with him. And he started talking to me, and I started telling him what's going on. And he was just like, you can't, you can't keep going like this. He's like, you don't go to church anymore. Now keep in mind, I didn't say this. He's a Muslim at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you're not going to church anymore. And he used to call me the super Christian. He was like,
Mm-hmm.
he's like, when was the last time you read your Bible? I'm thinking, now I'm Muslim. I know you. I read my Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's none of your business. Why are you asking that? Are you allowed to ask that question? So he started saying to me, well, this is what I need you to do. Well, first he said to me, because his mom was an elder at her church. So he says, well, I know you're not going to church anymore. He said, what if I take you to my mom's church? And I was like, okay, because I had left church too at that point. I wasn't going to church because I felt like they had favored my ex and not me. And the women were not reaching out to me, but the men were reaching out to her. So that's a whole nother story. Reaching out to them. So that was a whole nother story. So he makes me promise, I'm going to come back here on Sunday. I need you to be showered and dressed. He said,
showered.
Emphasis on showered and dressed. And I'm going to take you to my mom's church. So he took me to his mom's church, and I met his mom. And I was like, oh, that was nice. Because I did feel good by walking back in the church doors. I ain't going to lie.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, he said, well, what did you think? What did you think? And I said, it felt good to be back in the house. I ain't going to lie. It felt good. I said, but I can't go back to my old church. And so he said, he said, this is what he said. He's, well, why don't you start reading scripture to me? I'm like, what? Like, why would I do that? Like, so he's like, I'm just saying, just read the scripture to me. Just read the scripture. Like, so he would come over and he would ask me to read the scripture to him. And he was like, any scripture, whatever you wanted. So the more I did that, the more I started really coming back to myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, he played
because that word is life. Ain't that something about God? He brought the word to you through a Muslim.
Crazy though. When I think about, let me tell you, let's back up on that, because I was so messed up, because I'm thinking to myself, first of all, I had this man of God that I was married to for 12 years. I don't even think we read the Bible together, but we were in ministry. I don't think we ever prayed together. We were in ministry. I guess he was praying for me. I don't know. Wow. I never really started praying for me. But here I have this Muslim who, because I remember one time he said to me, he said, I'm going to pray for you. And I was like, no, don't do that. no, it's okay.
Look, don't cross the border now.
But he took such care of me. And he didn't really know me like that, because I was a family friend. Like he didn't know me like that. He knew my nieces, but he didn't know me. But he just felt so bad for me. So he started, I'm telling you, he played a big part in me getting back into the church.
Yeah, yeah. And going through that healing process, because now he's showing you and teaching you that you deserve to be loved the way that God desires you to be loved.
And yes, and speaking of love, so our song is Vision of Love by Mariah Carey. That is my song. That is our song. And he was like, what? I'm like, no, I'm telling you, this is our song. Because and I remember playing it for him, and he was just like, okay. No, because that's how I said, no, that's how I feel. Like, you really came into my life, and you gave me everything that I always knew I deserved in a relationship.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's ever done that for me. No man has ever loved me properly, with the exception of my two dads. Like, but you are loving me on a whole nother level. It was like blowing me away.
Yeah.
We became so close, and like the best of friends. And I never forget the first time I felt like, oh my God, Lord, I don't know what's happening. I think I'm falling in love with this man. And I remember telling his mom, I told you she was the elder at the church. She was like, girl, that's just infatuation. I was like, no, that's not what it is. I know infatuation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So long story short, we ended up just literally really becoming best friends and falling in love. Like, it was crazy, because I don't think that was the first time. That's when I realized there's a difference between loving somebody and being in love with somebody. Like, I really was in love, had never been in love, like didn't even know that type of feeling existed. And so I remember, because at this time his mom was like getting older and older. He was just like, listen, I want to marry you. I was like, oh, we can't get married. So we went through that, going back and forth. We can't get married. But then when we both decided, you know what? I said, I want to marry you too. But so we went back and forth with that. But then I remember him saying, but we're going to have to do it before my mom, because his mom was getting older and sick. I remember she gave her last sermon and she was like 90, I forgot, 90 something, 92.
Oh, yeah, she was up there. She lived a
Right.
full
And
life.
so he was like, you better listen, we're gonna do this and we want her to marry us, then we need to do this before, like, she getting sicker. So we ended up getting married in his mom's living room.
I
And my
love that.
sister was there, my son was there, and I think two of his sisters were there. And that was it. We've been together ever since. We ain't going
I love that.
nowhere.
I love that. I love that
Well,
because people be thinking you need this whole grand wedding and this whole display, and you're telling us that we had this intimate moment and that was
yes,
beautiful.
right in his mama's living room. Sure did, sure did. And
Yeah.
she passed away maybe a few years later. And she was so happy. She was just like, oh, that's the other thing, the way he cared for his mom. Something that my mother always said to me that was so valuable. She always said, watch how a man treats his mom.
Yeah.
And he take not just him, but his sisters too, but they took such good care of their mother. He would comb her hair, he would do her nails. He would, when she would come over, because it got to the point where she would stay, she had to leave her apartment and had to stay with his sister, but she would come to us on the weekend, some weekends, and he would fry all her fish because she loved fried fish. And he would, I just thought that was so sexy the way he took care of his mama. I was just like, that is so sexy to me.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. But I'm just admiring God right now, because just even hearing how he nursed you to health and he used somebody else to do it. Like he healed you enough so that you were able to love, and through that you were able to even experience God more. Like he brought you back to God when you were actually going away from him. God was like, no, we need to bring you back because I understand how valuable you are. And that just shows how much God cares about his children, right? It's almost like, nah, I cannot leave you out here hanging by any means necessary. I will bring whatever I need to bring you back home, because this is where you're supposed to be, because you're valued here. I love that.
That's so true. That's so true. Because that's exactly what God did. And I was just like, but I was so confused. I'm like, God, I don't understand. I could not understand why the man of God wasn't treating me well. But now this Muslim guy is like, what is this guy? I was like, God, what is this? And then I got to the point where, you know what? I ain't gonna fight it no more. I don't even know. But I know you know what's best. And I don't know.
Yeah.
But I stopped fighting it. I'm just
Yeah.
like, we're gonna go with it.
Yeah, because the words, like God, he says in his word that the sanctified wife will, heal the husband or bring the
Yeah.
husband back to God. And
Yeah.
so
And
God
that's another
wanted you
story.
and
Oh my.
him. He wanted you and him. And he used you for him and him for you.
Let me tell you this though, because it's so crazy. Because his mom and I became so close, especially when she started getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And so I have a son, and I told you my son is my world. He really is. That's still my baby, even though he's a grown man with kids of his own. He's still my baby. I don't care. But I was admiring how he treated his mom, and I remember her and I having this conversation because he went through some things too in a divorce. And I remember her saying to me, all I ever wanted was for my son to be loved by a good woman.
Wow.
And I remember saying to her, girl, your son is well loved, but I'm gonna always love your son. Because she was sick, and I remember saying, don't worry about your son. Because I could just tell, like as a mom, like from mom to mom, I was like, I got his back. I got him. Your son's gonna be all right. He's gonna be all right. He's in good hands.
I
Right.
love that.
Because I was just thinking, when I get older, I want my son to be like taking care of me like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we talk about the wife, what you were saying earlier. The thing is, because I want to say this, because a lot of women in the church go through this as well. When you are with an unbelieving husband, it is not your job to convert him. That's not your job. That's God's job. That's holy. job. You cannot change him. And a lot of times, because I've seen it where women just be beating him over the head with the Bible. You ain't coming to church, coming to church with me. I never said nothing to him about coming to church with me. When I really got back in church, he would just see me leave and come and go, come and go. And all of a sudden one day he's just like, where are you going, to church? I'm like, yeah, you know where I'm going. Like, all right, well, wait for me. I'll go with you. I'm like, okay, all right, okay. So yeah, and then when I got in ministry and he started going to conferences and stuff with me, and just it's just when I watch how God works. Like I never had to say anything. I never had to force him. I never had to tell him to go anywhere. He decided, okay, I could wait for me. I could dress him out and go with you. I'll do it. And even in that, because the mass jig that he was going to, if you meet him, he's such a loving. People love my husband. They love my husband, right? So the people at the mass jig, they love him, right? So the women, when they would go on through things, because they believe in multiple wives and stuff. Okay, my husband made it clear. Now, my wife, we don't do none of that.
Right.
We don't do any of that. Okay, but I don't know, we don't do none of that. Okay, no. But I remember him talking to. So I met a lot because I went to they had a banquet or something at the mass jig, and I went with them. And I met these people who love him so much. So they know me, but they know me as I'm his Christian wife, right? So they all know that about me. They all know it, right? But then I would hear him say to certain women that was going through things, he was like, you need to talk to my wife. You need to talk to my wife. My wife helps women. You need to talk to her. So him doing that, I ended up at one point. I was like, God, what are you giving me? Like a ministry, a Muslim? I don't understand what's happening. But reaching out to me, a lot of the women for counseling and things like that. So when I just look at how God just did this thing, and oh my goodness, because I believe, and I always said this, I believe what the enemy meant for evil, God turned that thing around for good, for sure. Because I believe that the enemy probably thought she's isolated. She left the church. Let me hook her up with a Muslim. Maybe she'll be converted or something. I don't know what he thinks, but I think that's what the enemy thought. I don't think so. I'm never gonna be that depressed. Okay.
Yeah.
Be that stressed. Okay. So, but it's just so beautiful watching how God over the years, my husband is so supportive to me, more supportive than me than that man of God. Okay. And I was able to write my first book because the other thing is I always said I was going to write a book about my trauma, but always because I always had so much stuff going on. You can't, when you got in survival mode, you barely getting through the day.
Yeah. Real talk.
So because he was able to love me the way I deserve to be loved and be there for me and not be stressed out, I was able to have the freedom to actually sit and write my first book.
Carolyn. I think that is so beautiful. I love everything about your story because there are so many who don't get to this point because they've experienced so much trauma, they won't even allow themselves to be loved by other people. And so I want you to speak to that person today. What would you say to the person who has experienced even a little bit of what you have been through?
Well, let me just tell you, first of all, know that you are loved, you are valued, and you are valuable, and you are so much more than you know you are. And you are more than a conqueror. And all of those things that the enemy has sent your way to overtake you, and I promise you, if you hang in there, if you keep going, if you don't give up on you, you're going to make it. There is life after trauma. There is life after abuse. There is life after all the things. I am a living witness. But use me as that example. For years, I did not get help. Because I want to say that. I didn't understand that I needed healing until I spiraled into a depression. So yes, say yes to professional help. Say yes to prayer. Say yes to deliverance. Because we need all the things. I needed all the things. Journaling, I needed everything. Okay, I still need everything. Okay, because, and I always tell people, healing is a lifelong journey. It's like not like you're healed and then you just heal. No, because there are going to always be things that will come up that's triggering.
Yeah.
And how do you get through that? I journal, I pray, counseling, all the things. So even though I counsel, I also have a counselor.
Yeah.
Don't be ashamed to get yourself the help that you need.
I love that. I love that. We have been on here talking forever, and I loved every moment of it, though. I loved every moment of it, though. I do want you to share just a little bit about what it is you do real quickly, because you mentioned it earlier, but I want people to really understand, though, like you are there to help people with their needs. So share just a little bit about what it is that you do.
Sure. So my ministry, I serve women. I like to say serve because I love serving women. So I serve women in women's shelters and wherever. God told me to leave the 99 and go after the one. So initially I'm like, God, what? Okay. So basically the ones that he sent to me that have been through the trauma. And so I do that through one-on-one counseling, one-on-one mentorships. I have a Queen of Purpose Academy. And I help women because when I say start over, because a lot of the women that I serve literally need to start all over. So they leave their abuser with nothing, just the children, no clothes, no nothing. So I teach women on the spiritual level, physical level, financial level, all the things. You need everything. You need to learn how to become self-sufficient so you don't have to go back because you don't have the financial means. So we do something called Wealth Builder Saturdays, and I teach women how to live their best and blessed life now. And because you deserve that. Like you absolutely do. So through workshops, counseling, the academy, everything.
Yeah.
It takes everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love how you do that, because you became that support group for somebody that you needed. Because I heard a statistic that said it takes 7 times for somebody to leave before they officially leave. And you showed strength because it didn't take you 7 times, right? But I think a lot of that is because, you sat down with your family and your friends and you said, this is what I'm going to do. You created a plan and a strategy, and you had help and support along the way. And so I think what you're doing is so valuable, because you're giving people the support that they need to show them that they don't have to keep running back to, the abuse, that they can actually get support and have a happier life. But you have to do it with proper planning. And you need that support around you. So I absolutely love that. Absolutely love that.
Yeah, and reach out to somebody. Because
Yeah.
when you're going through it, there's so much shame attached to it. There's so many emotions attached to it. Find at least one person that you can trust, that you can say, listen, even if you're not ready right now, but be there for me when I am ready. Because like my father-in-law was there for me when I was ready.
Yeah.
And that person that can look after you, call you, make sure you're okay or whatever. So at least pick one person, because I do understand you can't tell everybody, because some people will make the situation worse.
Yeah.
They'll put you in harm's way by just talking too much and saying too much. So if you come up with a safe escape plan, you can't tell everybody about your plan, because you don't want it to get back to the abuse.
Yeah.
You have to be very
Big
careful.
facts. Yeah, big facts. Thank you for that tip. I do, want to thank you for coming on and sharing, because man, just even listening to the replay, I want to watch this again and again, because it's so valuable. It's so powerful. Like, this conversation was good. Okay. I know I say, like, after most of my podcasts, I'm like, man, this is my favorite, but this is one of my favorite, because just watching and listening, it's almost like I'm watching your story and watching your triumph and seeing how good God is, just by you sharing. We overcome by the word of the testimony, right? And so I love to hear what it is that you're saying, because like you would never know that you have been through all of that. Like when I first met you, I did not know all of that. And you said you wrote a book, Tears in a Bottle, right?
The anthology with Men, Women in Power. I don't look like what I've been through. I don't look like what I've been through. And I always tell people, if I did, I would look very scary.
Yeah.
Because I could have got my teeth knocked out. Like there's so many things. God really preserved me. And one of my scriptures is Psalm 103. He renewed my youth like the eagle. Because I'm telling you right now, I'm 65 years old. And God renewed my youth like the eagle. I feel like all those years that were wasted, God, like, daughter, I'm gonna restore you. I'm gonna give you back all the years. So I still feel like I'm 35. My son laughed. I'm like, boy, I'm 35. Okay, I don't care how old you are.
Listen,
that's on you. I am 35. So in my mind and my body, everything about me, I'm 35. I refuse to allow my past to define me.
I love it.
You can live again. Yes. It's a mindset.
I love
Shift
it.
your mindset.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Pastor Carolyn. Let everybody know where they can reach you, how they can, get in touch with you.
Yes, so you can reach me on all social media platforms, Carolyn Ritter Watson. On TikTok, I'm Purpose Pusher Carol Ritter Watson. But yes, you just reach out to me. And I also have a Facebook community, Tears to Breakthrough, and you can join us. That's free. And you will be empowered and inspired every day, because that's a part of renewing your mind and healing. You got to put the right things in your mind every day.
Absolutely, absolutely. And y'all, she spoke about her book earlier, Tears in a Bottle, where she shares a lot about, some of the abuse that she experienced. And I want everybody to go get that book. Let's just say I want everybody to go get that book to hear more, because just even listening to a piece, man, like I know that book is so good. I already know that it is so good. I do want to thank you, Pastor Carolyn, for coming on. Second time is a charm. Like, I believe this is the conversation that God wanted us to have today. And so I thank you so much for being on my podcast. Y'all, listen, you can overcome any situation. Pastor Carolyn is a living testimony of that. You don't have to stay in your trauma. You don't have to live in there. You don't have to stay and suffer in abuse. You don't have to stay there in silence and hide, right? God will always send people to cover you, to carry you, to keep you, to give you a way out so that you can live and experience the fullness of God, right? He wants you to be able to experience that life. He wants you to be able to experience joy and peace and all of the things. And so don't ever give up. Stay inspired. Be encouraged by Pastor Carolyn's story, because God will come through. He will show you. And she is living proof of that. And so I want to thank you for tuning into this episode. It was so good. Some of y'all might need to watch this again, just for encouragements. I don't care if you watch it 2 times, 3 times, however many times you need to watch it. Whatever you need to do to encourage yourself, to show you that you have the strength to move from that situation. You have the strength. God has already given it to you. He's giving you outlets. This episode right here is a resource, and I want you to utilize that. And so if you feel like you need something, if you feel like you need help, reach out to Pastor Carolyn. Reach out to her, because she is there. She has created a ministry around helping people who are stuck in situations like you. And so I want to thank you again for tuning in. If you have enjoyed this episode, please feel free to like, subscribe, and share. And until next time, bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.